Okay, Bismillah. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Qala tabaraka wa ta'ala fi kitabihi al-kareem ba'ad an aqul a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما وينصرك الله نصرا عزيزا هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين ليزدادوا إيمانا مع إيمانهم ولله جنود السماوات والأرض وكان الله عليما حكيما ليدخل المؤمنين والمؤمنات جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ويكفر عنهم سيئاتهم وكان ذلك عند الله فوزا عظيما صدق الله العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما اللهم أرنا حقيقة الأشياء كما هي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you all for joining in. We are continuing with episode number 22. We only have a couple of episodes left. We're nearing the end of this series, and I think we did pretty well, covered quite a lot of ground in a short amount of time. I'm pretty confident that whatever it is that we had to offer in this particular series is as unique as it gets in terms of the combination and the lessons that we drew out of this these narrations from Surah and the selected ayat. What we're doing today is we're going to talk about the first few ayat of Surah Fath, Surah al-Fath. This is the 48th surah of the Quran. After the battle of Ahzab concluded, it was a victory for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba. Medina won. Medina was defended. There was the tribes that had settled around Medina originally had a pact with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They betrayed that pact with Rasulullah. They had joined hands with the Quraysh. The Quraysh had come with an army of 10,000 people. They had literally put everything that they could possibly muster in this attack. As far as the Quraysh were concerned, all their eggs were in one basket, and this was Ahzab. All the resources they could muster, all the money that they had, all the alliances that they could pull, they pulled them, they brought them, and they surrounded Medina with literally all the king's horses and all the king's men. And they had this alliance with a Jewish tribe as well, which was one of the defenses of Medina. Their fortress was on the other side. If the Quraysh had been allowed entry from there, then that would have been it. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam dug a trench on the other side. There were these fortresses from the open end, so to speak, and then there was obviously those lava tracks that could not be traversed by an army. And so that was the protection that Medina had. They laid siege. They could not persist. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they stuck strong. They suffered through the hunger, the difficulty, did not give in, did not give up. The Quraysh eventually had to give up. There was a little one particular Sahabi who became a Sahabi right around that time, came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him to conspire a trick with respect to do not reveal your iman. So he went to the particular Jewish tribe. He said, "Do you really trust the Quraysh?" Asked them for men. He went to the Qurayshi tribe. "Do you really trust this Jewish tribe that you have struck an alliance with?" They developed this mistrust against each other. Long story short, that didn't work for the Quraysh, and Medina was secure. Now, what happens after this is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam announces after the Quraysh leave, لَن يَغْزُوكُمْ قُرَيْشٌ بَعْدَ عَامِكُمْ هَذَا, that the Quraysh are not going to attack you after this year. This was their last ditch effort literally a ditch effort that they could pull at you. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ تَغْزُونَهُمْ, rather you are going to attack them. And so what did this attack look like? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a dream that they're performing Umrah. So in the fulfillment of this dream, this prophecy, him and the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, they get together. They put on ihram. It's 1,400 of them. Their swords are sheathed. They're not going for battle. They're going for pilgrimage. They have sacrificial animals with them. And they are advancing towards Mecca. Now the Meccans are shocked. What do we do? We can't just allow them to walk in and do Umrah. But then again, their legacy is that they don't turn anyone away from pilgrimage. To allow them in, Badr has happened, Uhud has happened, Ahzab just happened. And with that humiliation, letting them in to do Umrah, that's not happening. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum camp outside of Mecca. They send emissaries, they send messengers to talk to the Quraysh. Hazrat Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he goes to talk to them. There is a delay in his return because the Muslims are apprehensive already. What if they do something? And if they do anything to harm Hazrat Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that this means war. This means we have to fight. And so they took a pledge, which is called the Bayt Ridwan. They took a pledge, a bay'ah they gave to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this was known as the pledge of death, because again they're not a full-fledged army, and but still they have resolved to stand strong for Hazrat Usman radiallahu ta'ala. Now, of course, the Quraysh are in no position to defend. And even if they have the ability, the men to put together to fight, their confidence, their resources are shattered so much after Ahzab, they're just not ready for it. And they already have this intimidation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It started from Badr, of course, after the incredible victory at Badr. It's something that they haven't been able to recover from. They somewhat recovered with Uhud, but then at Ahzab, that's gone again. So when they look at Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is this deep-seated fear that we are fighting a man of God. And we don't want to do that. We have not come out well in any of our previous encounters, barring Uhud. So for them, that's not an option. So they have to do something. And this is where the Treaty of Hudaybiyah comes in, that the Quraysh agree to sign a pact, a peace treaty with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of the clauses in that treaty they look like they are giving the Quraysh the upper hand. The Quraysh are turning the Muslims away. You're not going to do Umrah this year. You're going to have to come back next year. They say the treaty includes that we're not going to fight each other. We're not even going to assist our allies against each other. Our allies are not going to be assisted either. if one person, if anyone from us, from the Quraysh, goes to Medina, even if they're Muslim, Medina has to return them to Mecca. They cannot keep them. They have to return them. They have to hand them over. However, if somebody from Medina comes to Mecca, somebody from uh, the people of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes to Mecca, they don't get to go. They don't have to return them. They can stay in Mecca. So it's a double standard within the treaty itself, and so on. So for a lot of the Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, this was unacceptable. They're like, why are we coming off as the losers, so to speak, in this treaty? This is not a treaty between equals. You're the prophet of God. This is a holy pilgrimage. And these people are not giving you that respect that you deserve. We are on truth. Why are we signing a treaty with these clauses? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is signing a treaty, and he dictates that this is a treaty between Fulan and Fulan from Quraysh and Muhammadur Rasulullah. They're like, strike out Rasulullah. We don't believe that you're Rasulullah. Rasulullah agrees. Okay, strike it out. He tells Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, erase that. Hazrat Ali says, no, I'm not erasing that. Not Rasulullah, not from in front of your name, not me. Rasulullah is like, okay, I'll erase it. Tell me where it is. Because he couldn't read, so he pointed towards where that was, and he erased it himself. Similarly, Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when the treaty is signed, he's like, what is this? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we signing this? You are the prophet. We're on truth. We shouldn't have to do this. We can fight. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, no, we're doing this. This treaty is happening. And it is important that it happens. Right around that time, when it's over and done with, the treaty is signed, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells them, okay, open your ihram. Now for them, it's a big deal. You came for pilgrimage. You're not getting to do pilgrimage. It's something spiritual. Rasulullah saw a dream. That dream is not going to be fulfilled. We're going to return without having performed pilgrimage. We came for pilgrimage. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells them, no. Ihram open, shave off your heads. This is it. Offer your sacrifices. We're not going in there. The Sahaba are shocked. You're like, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells them they're not doing it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes worried. He's like, what's wrong with them? Why are they not listening? He expresses his concern to his wife, Salma radiallahu ta'ala anha. And this was the mu'amala, this was the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was his sunnah. He would always do shura. And he had people to do shura with. And in this particular case, his shura is with his wife, Salma radiallahu ta'ala anha. He shares his concern, his worry with her. What do I do? What are they doing? Why aren't they listening? Why are they instigating God by not listening to their prophet? At that point, Hazrat Salma radiallahu ta'ala anha, the advice that she gives him now exhibits her wisdom, what she's gathered over the years. Now, she's one of the first people to convert to Islam in Mecca with her husband, Abu Salma. They were one of the first people to migrate because of the persecutions. So she's migrated twice. She, after having lost, and her husband was an incredible person, one of the foremost of the companions of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After that, coming to marry Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, all of this, she is a very wise woman, and the advice that she gives Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reflects that wisdom, and he takes it as a wise counsel. She says, you do it yourself, they will follow suit. She understands them in that particular situation as having been overwhelmed by emotions. This is their emotions having gotten the better of them. And if they see you practically do something, demonstrate, despite themselves, they will be able to follow suit. So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam does so. And that's exactly what happens. They follow suit. It is in all of this that one of the Sahaba, one of the companions of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has been imprisoned by the Quraysh for all this time, he was not able to migrate. Why? Because he was imprisoned, he was captive. He finally, after all of these years, is able to escape Mecca. And he comes to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and he says, I need for you to accept me, to give me refuge. I'm running away from them. I can't go back there. I need asylum in Medina. I am a Muslim. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, of course, wants to help him, wants to give him asylum, wants his suffering to end, but he can't. And he doesn't. I have a treaty. And the treaty is with who? It's with the mushrikeen of Mecca. It is with the perpetrators, the torturers of Islam, of Muslims for all these years. People who, the first opportunity they would have gotten, they would have killed Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Those are the people that the treaty is with. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam honors the treaty. Even if that means letting Abu Jandal, and he wasn't alone, he had some other people with him as well. He has to let him go. Or actually, he gathered those people later. But he has to let him go. He cannot give him asylum. That would be going against the treaty. He's returned. He's not returned to Mecca necessarily. He's just not given asylum in Medina. Now, wherever Abu Jandal goes after that, that's up to him. So in the aftermath of all of this, the believers are shaken. The Sahaba they're confused. What just happened? The surah is revealed. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. We have granted you, Ya Rasulullah, a clear victory. Wait, what? This is a clear victory? The Quran announces it as such. It is interesting that you will not find the conquest of Mecca, the Fatham Mubina that Mecca was, is not narrated as Fatham Mubina. It is narrated, actually not at all. It is indirectly alluded to in a couple of places, and that's pretty much it. Hudaybiyah is mentioned as a victory. This needs to be mentioned. Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina. We have opened up Mecca for you. This clear opening, this clear victory. We've given you this victory. Ya Rasulullah. لِيَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. So that Allah may forgive you. Now, it's addressing Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the singular. مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ. Whatever has preceded you of your dhanb, of your mistakes. Dhanb would quite consistently be translated as sins. Now, of course, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as far as his prophetic responsibility is concerned, as prophet in terms of communicating revelation, there is absolutely no possibility of making any mistake, of committing any error or sin. He is protected from that. And for him to experience revelation incorrectly. And of course, from communicating it, that is a responsibility that he has, which he could do otherwise, but he doesn't, which is to his credit, of course. And he consistently delivers the message. But as far as the mu'amalat in this world are concerned, when you have a variety of choices in front of you, not all of them are equally good, equally right, or equally wrong. There is necessarily a good choice, a better choice, the best choice, or a bad choice. We have spoken about in the aftermath of Badr the choice that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made, his interpretation of the events and of the ayat that relate to the events, was to let the prisoners of war go for a ransom. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reproaches, no, not the best choice. We expected better. We expected better. So within our day-to-day affairs, the choices that we make, as far as the overall picture is concerned, we can make choices which aren't the best, which are worse, and there were better options, and they would have their consequences. But the way we have been created and the way the world works as Allah has created it, there are opportunities for repair and correction. There's exits on the highway. You can take a U-turn and go back, correct yourself. Whatever consequences there are, you'll face them, of course, but not to their nth degree, or not to the every single consequence that should have been there. Allah lets things go. In Allah being at-Tawwab, the one who accepts tawbah, the one who forgives, the one who lets go, necessarily means that in this material world, in our day-to-day lives, there are opportunities to go back. To go back not in time and undo something. There's no Control Z to that level, to that effect. But in terms of fixing things, making repairs, in terms of, yes, suffering through some of the consequences, but not all. Actually drawing life out of the damaging consequences of your mistakes and bad choices. They're always there. That is what it means to believe in Allah being at-Tawwab, Allah being al-Ghaffar. That you can have committed some horrendous sins even. Of course, when we're talking about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is inconceivable. Those are strategic errors. But strategic errors in our day-to-day affairs, even for us, things that would constitute spiritual errors or religious errors, there are always opportunities to turn them, the worst of them, as enriching, as sources of enrichment, as sources of growth. There is always those opportunities. Yes, it becomes more and more difficult as we age and those mistakes become habits and they become rigid, to grow out of those rigidities. But even when the habits are good, possibilities of error, of mistakes, of sins, of dhunub are definitely there. Allah's active engagement in our lives, day-to-day affairs, is such that He curtails the damaging consequences. Allah is part of the process of damage control. As long as we're willing to put ourselves forward, take some of that pain, be delivered from a lot of it, grow overall as a result. So the forgiveness of those dhunub, the forgiveness of those mistakes, yes, there's of course the afterlife implication of it, that you don't have to pay for it in sense of punishment, but there is a payment for it in this dunya. And that is a necessary payment. That's an important payment. That's a payment that results in this upliftment, this growth, this development, that what all of spirituality is about. So forgiveness is a process. لِيَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. And whatever is to come later, you're going to make mistakes again. You live with that humility, with that fallibility. وَيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. And for him to perfect his blessing upon you. There is this incredible blessing. A blessing that does not make you infallible. A blessing that does not make you absolutely perfect in the sense you can't put a foot wrong. No. A blessing that you have and you're confident in its being a blessing, but you're not arrogant. So that you maintain that confidence with humility. And how important is it for an individual's development to balance these two apparent contradictions, confidence and humility? Because there's a very thin line between confidence and arrogance. There's also a very thin line between humility and humiliating yourself. Self-denigration, self-degradation. Very, very thin lines. To maintain this balance, again, we speak about the psychological hygiene that these rather deeper understandings of spirituality hold. That what you gather from Allah's attributes, from Allah's relationship with Rasulullah, and what we learn from there, that what that iman gives is confidence, not arrogance. Kibr is a contradiction in iman. You believe, you hold on to that belief, but you're not absolutely rigid and stubborn and arrogant. That evidence in the form of ayat of Allah presents itself before you, and you're unyielding, you don't move. That you're giving definitive judgments on other people's state of their hearts and their guidance before Allah and their afterlife based on this iman that you have. That's not iman, that is kibr. At the same time, you carry this humility in the sense you understand that you're fallible. You understand that you're going to make mistakes. You have been actively making mistakes. You know what those mistakes are, at least a portion of them. If you're completely oblivious to your own sins and your own mistakes, all you have are justifications and excuses. That's a very dangerous place to be in. But those mistakes don't get to you. Those mistakes, those errors, those sins, you don't define yourselves through them and completely label yourself as a gone case, as lost. You understand Allah's forgiveness and His being at-Tawwab, and what fruits are there in that fallibility. How much life you can draw out, how much good you can draw out from the bads that you've done. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu as a case in point. And so this forgiveness of Allah, and how that is followed by وَيَهْدِيَكَ الصِّرَاطَ مُسْتَقِيمًا. He guides you to a straight way. وَيَنْصُرَكَ اللَّهُ نَصْرًا عَزِيزًا. And Allah helps you with a mighty support. That this help of Allah, this guidance of Allah, this is all in the aftermath of forgiveness of Allah, which is, of course, preceded by the human being making mistakes, making important mistakes. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.